Welcome to this edition of World Business Commentary. My name is Belinda Boggs and my co-host is Kristen Ciccarello. Today's topic is about remote work and the ever-ubiquitous 3-day hybrid work week. An opinion piece in Entrepreneur magazine talks about the idea that the hybrid work week may not make much sense for customers. The other idea in the piece is that companies tend to focus on customers much more than employees. The author uses this point in his argument. In other words, why aren't customers being considered? While that's certainly a valid point, we also want to talk about the idea that the companies are not treating their employees as customers. They're not valuing their employees as they should. Kristen, let's start with the article and its key points. What do you think about this idea that the hybrid work week may not be ideal for customers?
Thanks. Well, let me start by saying that I was surprised that no one brought this issue up sooner. Why is the 3-day hybrid workweek ideal, and how does it serve the customer? Let's start with a direct quote from the article, and then we'll analyze it a bit. Quote: a Columbia Business School study reviews a text analysis of earnings call transcripts of S&P 500 companies to show that company executives talk about customers 10 times more often than employees, a number that has grown over the last 15 years. Additionally, when companies discuss employees, executives are more likely to correlate them to risk factors and consumers to growth opportunities. End of quote. So, what is this article telling us? Companies are telling their shareholders that customers are key to their success. That they are emphasizing customers above all. And the article is asking, if this is true, then why aren't companies considering customers when they create these hybrid work weeks? This is a great question. How does the hybrid work week serve the customer? Later, we should also talk about how the hybrid work week serves the employee.
So, does the article shed any light on this? What should companies be doing?
Yes. Later in the article, the author states that companies should be doing market research to find out what customers want. You know, basic voice of the customer 101. Then, they should take this into consideration. Now, here's an interesting example from the article. Quote: indeed, one of my clients who does provide such services found that it was more helpful to have staff working remotely most of the work week. That's because most employees were much more willing to work non-standard hours when they worked remotely. Thus, the company was better able to provide customer support during a longer time period with faster responses by having shifts during non-standard working hours. End of quote.
Interesting. So, remote work, in this case, is better for the customer.
Exactly. So, the article rightly points out that customers were not really considered when they moved from remote to 3-day hybrid work weeks. Interesting to me. Now, I've pointed out previously that employees weren't considered either. So, since this arrangement might not benefit customers, and I think will show that it doesn't benefit employees. Whom does it benefit? By the way, for you out there watching on YouTube, if you like what you've heard so far, please subscribe to our channel and give us a big thumbs up.
Great. Now back to the article. Does the article mention why companies moved to a hybrid 3-day work week?
Here are a couple of quotes from a section of the article entitled, Debunking the Myth of the 3-Day Workweek. Quote: the 3-day workweek emerged as a popular solution amidst the uncertainty of the pandemic. As companies experimented with hybrid work models, this arrangement appeared to strike a balance between the benefits of remote work and the need for in-person collaboration. However, the adoption of this model by numerous organizations has led to the misconception that it's universally applicable. End of quote. The article goes on to explain that the effectiveness of the hybrid approach varies. Quote: for instance, in sectors like software development or creative services, a greater degree of remote work might be feasible without any loss in productivity or sacrifice of customer needs. On the other hand, industries or functions that rely heavily on in-person interactions, such as sales, may require more on-site presence to maintain customer service quality. End of quote. The article is arguing that each company needs to tailor its approach for different functions. I think the article makes some great arguments, but the one thing it doesn't really talk about is that companies should also be considering the needs of their employees. Both customers and employees are important, and I think the move to a 3-day hybrid workweek ignores both.
Great points. We see that customers have not been considered, and they should have been, in the move to a hybrid workweek. Now, what about employees? Let's look at the study from Columbia University, your alma mater, right?
That's right. This is an interesting study from January 2023. Columbia's own press release on this stated that the research calls on companies to value employees. That sounds great. So, what were the key findings? Here are some key findings. Quote: 1. Speaking volumes on customers but not employees. Approximately 92% of the earnings call transcripts have at least one mention of customers in them. However, employees are not mentioned or talked about as frequently, as only 55% of the transcripts have any discussion on employees. 2. Negativity toward employees. When speaking on earnings calls, executives are almost 50% more likely to use prevention-focused words, which include anxious, defend, pain, and threat, when they discuss employees compared to when they discuss customers. 3. A background in customer experience. The prior experiences of senior executives and board members demonstrate an overwhelming bias towards customers compared to employees. 4. Customer literature, but not employee literature, textbooks, academic journals, and practitioner-oriented articles, which educate future business leaders and inform current ones about strategy, are more focused on customers than employees. These 4 findings show that customers are apparently much more important than employees. It sounds like employees are viewed negatively. The findings conclude that, quote, in order for companies to remain agile and innovative, they need human labor, and for employees to remain creative and innovative, companies need to also adopt a more employee-centric approach. End of quote.
So, let's tie these findings to remote and hybrid, and then, let's talk about how companies should approach moving to hybrid or remote work.
Well, it's definitely important to highly value both customers and employees. Both are absolutely critical to the company's success. Now, I think reconciling their needs is quite easy. The idea to move from a pandemic-induced 100% remote situation to 3-day hybrid workweek is really based on nothing. We've talked about the silly notions companies have espoused in past episodes. So, what needs to happen is this. Companies should find out what their customers want and need and what their employees want and need. Then, they can determine which departments and roles should be remote, which should be on-site, and which, if any, should be hybrid. Ideally, they should make every effort to satisfy their employees and meet their customers' needs. A happy, engaged workforce is a critical success factor, in my view. Stop treating employees like liabilities or expenses, and start treating them as what they are, an organization's most valuable asset.
Well said. So there you have it, folks. Customers and employees should both be valued. The needs of each need to be taken into account. There are many situations in which remote work will benefit both customers and employees, and companies should be taking advantage of this instead of fighting their own employees. We've both concluded that remote work will continue to be a useful approach to work that benefits employees, customers, and the organization's shareholders. That's our segment for today. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it.